Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
When Ben Stiller walked onto The View, the audience expected his trademark humor and quick wit. What they didn't expect was one of the heated moral debates daytime TV had seen all year. The topic: should the death penalty be abolished? Joy Behar opened the conversation with her familiar sharp tone, ready to challenge anyone who dared disagree. But Ben wasn't there to play it safe. Calm but passionate, he spoke about justice, forgiveness, and the failures of a system that sometimes gets it wrong. Joy countered fiercely, arguing that abolishing the death penalty sends the wrong message to victims' families. The exchange grew tense, cutting through the laughter and chatter that usually fills the show. Whoopi, Sunny, and Sara tried to steady the conversation, but neither Ben nor Joy was backing down. By the end of the segment, the audience had witnessed a rare sight: Ben Stiller, known for comedy, revealing his serious moral side, while Joy stood her ground like a wall of fire. Within hours, the clip spread online. Viewers were split. Was Ben too idealistic, or had Joy gone too far defending something many believe no longer belongs in a civilized world?
The energy in the studio that morning was light, almost playful, when The View began. Joy Behar cracked a few jokes about the weekend box office. Whoopi Goldberg sipped her coffee, smiling. The audience was excited to see Ben Stiller, Hollywood's comedy king, stepping out from behind the camera to talk about his new humanitarian documentary. Ben walked out to loud applause, dressed simply in a navy suit and open-collar shirt. He waved, smiling warmly as he took his seat beside Joy. "Good to see you, Joy," he said, with genuine ease. "Always a pleasure, Ben," she replied, leaning in. "You look too serious today. What's the documentary about? Please tell me it's not another celebrity saving the world." The audience laughed. Ben chuckled too, but there was something steady in his gaze. "It's not about me saving anyone," he said. "It's about people who've been failed by systems we take for granted. Criminal justice, for one." The table quieted. Sunny Hostin leaned forward with interest, sensing where this might go. Whoopi asked gently, "You mean wrongful convictions?" Ben nodded. "Exactly. Men and women who've spent decades on death row, some proven innocent only after it's too late. I wanted to show the human cost of when the system gets it wrong." Joy tilted her head, eyes narrowing just a touch. "So are you saying we should get rid of the death penalty altogether?" Ben smiled faintly. "I think we should at least admit it's not working. If there's even a 1% chance we execute an innocent person, isn't that too high a price?" The audience hummed in quiet agreement. But Joy leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "I don't know, Ben. Tell that to the families who lost their loved ones in cold blood. You think they want to hear about the human cost for killers?" Her tone was sharp, but Ben stayed calm. "I think that's exactly who needs to be part of the conversation. Justice isn't revenge, it's responsibility." A few people in the audience clapped. Others sat frozen, unsure if this was still a friendly chat. Whoopi smiled diplomatically. "This is definitely heavier than the trailer I saw, Ben." He grinned slightly. "Yeah, I guess I didn't come here to sell laughs today." Joy jumped back in. "I just don't buy it. You've got these guys who murder children, police officers, people with families, and we're supposed to house and feed them for life? Taxpayers footing that bill?" Ben's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed even. "It's not about rewarding them. It's about preserving our own humanity. If the justice system becomes about vengeance, what separates us from the people we condemn?" The audience reacted audibly, half gasping, half clapping. Sunny interjected softly. "It's complicated. I've prosecuted capital cases. There's so much emotion behind them, especially from victims' families. But Ben's right about wrongful convictions. We've seen too many." Joy turned to her. "Sure, mistakes happen, but that doesn't mean we tear down the whole thing." Ben's eyes met hers. "Joy, we're not talking about a cracked building. We're talking about human lives. Once the state kills someone, that mistake can't be fixed." The tension was visible now. Joy tapped her pen against the table, the smile gone. "You're very idealistic, Ben, but idealism doesn't bring closure." Ben's tone softened. "Maybe closure doesn't come from another death. Maybe it comes from change."
A hush fell over the studio. Whoopi broke it with a small laugh, trying to lighten the mood. Okay, I see we're not going to agree on this one before lunch. But Joy wasn't finished. You know, Ben, it's easy for actors to say things like that. You live in a world of scripts and do-overs. Real life doesn't give second takes. Ben looked at her, steady and unflinching. You're right, Joy. That's exactly why we shouldn't treat life like it's disposable. The audience clapped again, louder this time. The camera caught Joy's faint smirk and Ben's calm stare, a silent standoff between Hollywood's heart and daytime TV's firebrand. The warmth from the start of the interview had evaporated. What replaced it was something electric, an unspoken challenge hanging in the air. And as they moved to the next segment, it was clear this wasn't going to be just another celebrity interview. It was turning into a battle of conviction versus cynicism, and neither was about to blink first.
When they came back from the commercial break, the tension hadn't lifted. It had settled in deeper, like a storm waiting to break. The producers tried to lighten things up with a quick game segment teaser, but Joy brushed it aside. She was still locked on Ben, her tone carrying that trademark mix of humor and bite. "So, Ben," she said, crossing her legs and leaning forward, "you think getting rid of the death penalty somehow makes society more moral, but what about the victims? Don't they deserve justice too?" Ben didn't flinch. "Of course they do, Joy. I just don't think killing someone else makes it right. It doesn't bring anyone back. It just adds another tragedy to the pile." The audience murmured. Some nodded. Others shifted, uneasy. Joy smiled tightly. "Tell that to the parents of a murdered child. You think they want to hear about your philosophical feelings?" Ben's eyes hardened slightly. "I've spoken to some, actually. A few told me that waiting decades for an execution didn't heal them. It hollowed them out. They said the anger never went away. They wanted accountability, not another death." Whoopi tried to step in. "I think what Ben's saying is, maybe justice and revenge aren't the same thing." But Joy wasn't done. "I get that, Whoopi, but we can't just turn the other cheek every time some crimes are so evil, so unforgivable, that there has to be a final consequence." Ben leaned forward now, his voice calm but more pointed. "So we answer evil with more killing. That's not justice, that's perpetuating it." Joy shook her head, almost laughing. "Ben, this isn't a movie script. You can't fix the world with a moral monologue." The audience gasped softly at that jab. Ben didn't smile. "I'm not trying to fix the world. I'm trying to get people to look at what it's become. We execute people in a system that's biased, broken, and too often wrong. That's not justice, it's negligence." Sunny spoke up carefully, her legal background giving her words weight. "He's right about the flaws. There's racial disparity, lack of proper defense, political pressure. I've seen prosecutors chase the death penalty for the optics." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "But what's the alternative? Just let murderers rot in prison for 50 years on the taxpayer's dime?" Ben's eyes met hers again. "If that's the cost of not executing the wrong person, then yes, I'd rather pay taxes for life than for a wrongful death." The audience applauded, louder this time. Joy's smile faltered a second before she regrouped. "You talk about mistakes like it's common. Do you know how rare wrongful convictions actually are?" Ben looked straight into the camera now, speaking more to the viewers than the panel. "Even if it's rare, it happens. And if one innocent person dies at the hands of the state, that's one too many. That's a stain you can't wash out." The audience erupted in claps. Joy countered quickly. "So we just ignore the monsters then? The serial killers, the terrorists, the people who do it again if given half a chance?" Ben's voice dropped lower, steadier. "No one's saying ignore them. Lock them away. Protect society. But don't turn killing into a government service." That line hit hard. Even Whoopi raised her eyebrows. Joy's tone sharpened. "That's easy for you to say, sitting here in designer shoes, far away from the families who lost everything. It's moral theater, Ben." Ben blinked slowly, his jaw tight. "You think morality is theater? Maybe that's the problem. We treat ethics like entertainment until it costs us something." A wave of oohs rolled through the crowd. Sara tried to jump in, half laughing. "Okay, let's all take a deep breath. This is getting real serious for a Wednesday morning." But Joy wasn't laughing. "I'm serious too, Sara. I'm tired of celebrities preaching from their mansions. You want to end the death penalty? Go talk to the victims' families, not an audience." Ben leaned forward, his voice low and measured. I do talk to them, Joy, and I listen. Maybe that's what's missing, listening instead of shouting. The studio fell quiet again. Even Joy hesitated. Whoopi finally broke the silence. You both care about justice. You're just coming from different places. One's about accountability, the other about compassion. Joy nodded curtly, though her expression stayed tight. Well, compassion doesn't bring closure. Ben looked at her for a long second. And closure doesn't come from watching someone die. It comes from healing. Applause filled the room again, this time more sustained. The camera cut between Joy's restrained smile and Ben's unwavering calm. The tension was palpable, but so was the respect. For now, they had moved from sparring to something deeper, more personal, and beneath the polite smiles and studio lights, it was clear the real clash was just beginning.
The air in the studio felt heavier now. What started as a debate had become something else, personal, moral, and raw. The cameras kept rolling, but you could sense that everyone on that stage had forgotten about show business for a moment. Whoopi shifted in her chair, trying to regain the show's rhythm. Ben, you've made some strong points, she said carefully. But I think where Joy's getting at is, some people believe forgiveness doesn't always fit into justice. Ben nodded slightly. I get that, Whoopi. I really do. His voice softened, and for the first time, his tone carried a deeper weight. But I've met people who've gone through the worst things you can imagine and still chose forgiveness. That's strength, not weakness. Joy tilted her head. You're talking about forgiveness like it's a fair trade for justice. It's not. Some acts can't be forgiven, Ben. You know that. Ben looked down for a moment, then back up, eye steady but distant, like he was pulling from somewhere deep. I used to think that too, until I met a mother in Georgia. The studio went silent. He continued, voice low and steady. Her son was murdered when he was 21, brutal, senseless. The killer was caught, convicted, and sentenced to death. Everyone called it justice, but she told me years later that watching the man die didn't bring her peace, it broke her again. She said I wanted to feel something, but all I felt was empty. Even Joy didn't interrupt this time. Ben's voice caught slightly. She told me forgiveness wasn't about letting him go, it was about letting herself live again. She started speaking out against the death penalty because she didn't want another mother, even the killers, to lose her child too. The audience was completely still. You could hear a cough from the back row, someone shifting, a quiet sniffle. Joy finally spoke, her voice lower, less sharp. That's powerful, Ben. But that's one story. For every mother like her, there are dozens who want that justice. Ben nodded. I know, but it's not about denying them justice. It's about redefining what justice means. Do we want a country built on punishment or on the idea that we can be better than what hurt us? Sunny leaned in, her eyes soft. Ben, that story? That's why this matters, because people think this is black and white, but it's not. It's human. It's pain and politics and morality all tangled up. Joy let out a quiet sigh. I understand the sentiment. I really do. But you can't just tell people to let go of anger. You lose someone like that, you want someone to pay. Ben's expression changed. Something flickered behind his eyes. You're right, he said softly. I wanted that once, too. The table froze. Joy frowned. What do you mean? Ben took a breath. My cousin was killed when I was a teenager. Wrong place, wrong time, caught in the middle of a robbery. The guy who did it was arrested. I wanted him dead. I wanted to see him pay. He paused, eyes locked on Joy. But when the verdict came down, life without parole, it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like fair, because he had to live with what he did. And somehow, I got to live with my conscience intact. The audience broke into applause, not loud or showy, but heartfelt. Joy looked genuinely taken aback. I didn't know that about you. Ben shrugged slightly. I don't talk about it much, but it changed me. It made me realize that every time we choose revenge, we lose a little bit of what makes us human. Whoopi exhaled, almost under her breath. That's heavy, man. Ben managed a small smile. Yeah, but I think that's the problem. We treat death like closure when it's really just another wound. The audience clapped again, this time longer. Joy's voice softened, but her conviction remained. I respect what you've been through, truly. But you can't make policy out of personal pain. The world doesn't work that way. Ben leaned forward, meeting her gaze. Then maybe it should. That landed. Hard. A ripple of reaction swept through the audience. Gasps, claps, even a few murmurs of, wow. Joy leaned back, shaking her head, half in disbelief, half admiration. You really believe that, don't you? Ben nodded. Every word. For a moment, there was nothing but silence between them. Not tension this time, understanding. The audience sensed it too, the kind of silence that follows something real. But the peace wouldn't last. Offstage, producers were signaling a break. Whoopi tried to move on, but Joy wasn't ready to drop it. Her next question would hit like a spark to gasoline, one that would push the conversation to its absolute breaking point.
As they came back from the next commercial break, the studio lights felt almost too bright. The audience could sense it. Something was coming. Joy Behar's expression had changed. She wasn't smiling anymore. She looked ready. Whoopi tried to open softly. We're back with Ben Stiller, and things got a little heavy before the break. Joy cut in. Oh, we're not done. Ben brought up forgiveness and conscience, and I respect that. But let me ask you something. She turned toward him, eyes sharp. If it was your child murdered, if someone tortured and killed your own family, would you still sit here and say the death penalty is wrong? The question hung in the air like a strike of thunder. The audience gasped audibly. Ben blinked, jaw tightening. That's a cruel hypothetical, Joy. Joy didn't budge. No, it's reality for a lot of people. It's easy to preach forgiveness when it's not your family on the line. The studio went dead quiet. Even Whoopi shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Ben sat back for a long moment before answering. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. You're right. It's easy to talk when it's not personal. But that's the test, isn't it? What our principles are worth when they're tested. Joy scoffed softly. So you let a killer live, knowing what they did. Ben leaned forward, his tone steady but intense. I'd want to kill him with my own hands in that moment. I'd feel rage, grief, all of it. But that's exactly why I shouldn't have the power to decide. That's why the system shouldn't kill either, because emotion isn't justice, it's reaction. A few people in the audience clapped slowly. Others just sat there stunned. Joy's voice rose slightly, her frustration bleeding through. So what, we all just sit around and sing songs about mercy while monsters walk free? You've gone soft, Ben. The world isn't built on compassion. It's built on consequences. The words hit hard. Joy's eyes narrowed. You sound like someone who's never had to stare evil in the face. Ben didn't hesitate. Evil doesn't scare me as much as indifference does. That's what lets evil thrive, the belief that vengeance equals virtue. The audience clapped again, louder now, breaking through the tension. Whoopi tried to interject. Okay, before we have an actual riot in here. But Joy wasn't backing down. No, Whoopi, I'm serious. You've got people dying out there, innocent lives shattered, and he's sitting here talking about the killer's humanity? Where's the humanity for the victims? Ben raised his voice for the first time. It's not either or. You can care about victims and still believe killing is wrong. The crowd roared, half cheering, half gasping at his tone. Joy threw up her hands. Oh, come on, Ben. You're acting like you found the moral high ground. You live in a bubble. You're an actor, not a judge. Ben snapped back. I'm a citizen, Joy. I pay taxes. I vote. I care about the kind of country my kids grow up in. And one where we kill people to prove killing is wrong doesn't sound civilized to me. The audience broke into applause, loud and sustained. Joy looked out at them, incredulous. Oh, of course the movie star says the system's broken, and suddenly he's the voice of America. Ben didn't take the bait. I'm not the voice of America. I'm a guy saying we can do better. You don't have to agree, but stop pretending compassion is weakness. That line landed like a hammer. Even Joy paused. You could see her processing, her hands tightening around her cue cards. Then she muttered, almost to herself, maybe compassion's a privilege for people who've never lost someone. Ben's tone softened instantly. No, Joy. Compassion's what you cling to after you've lost someone. It's the only thing that keeps you from becoming what you hate. A hush fell over the room. Whoopi, normally quick to jump in, stayed silent. The camera zoomed in on Joy, her expression unreadable. Then without warning, she leaned back and said quietly, You know, I've lost people too. Ben looked at her, surprised. I know. For a brief moment, they both sat there, two people on opposite sides of a wall, suddenly realizing there was pain on both sides. But before the moment could settle, the stage manager gestured frantically for another break. The tension was too much, the atmosphere too charged. Whoopi exhaled and forced a smile. "We're going to take a quick commercial break, folks. When we come back, we'll wrap this up." The lights dimmed slightly. Joy looked down at her notes, jaw tight. Ben stared at the table, shoulders low. The cameras faded out, but the silence between them didn't. Off mic, a few audience members whispered, "That was intense." And it was. The breaking point had passed, not in a shouting match, but in something more powerful. Two worldviews colliding in real time, live on television, and neither walking away unchanged.
When the cameras came back from the final commercial break, the studio felt different. The usual chatter and laughter were gone, replaced by a quiet respect that hung in the air. The audience was still buzzing, but it was a softer kind of energy, like everyone knew they'd just witnessed something real. Whoopi tried to ease them back in. "Welcome back to The View. It's been a pretty intense morning," she said with a small smile. "Ben, Joy, thank you both for being so honest." Joy exhaled, still clutching her cue cards. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I might have gotten a little carried away." The audience chuckled gently, but Joy didn't smile yet. She looked over at Ben, her tone measured. "You know, Ben, I still don't agree with you. I don't think we should throw away the death penalty. But I'll admit, I haven't heard it put the way you did before. It makes you think." Ben gave a small nod. "That's all I was hoping for, Joy. Not to win an argument, just to remind people that justice isn't simple." There was a pause, one of those rare, unscripted moments on live TV where silence says everything. Whoopi broke it softly. "You know, when I was younger, my cousin was murdered. I don't talk about it much, and for a long time, I wanted blood. I wanted payback. But maybe that's why this conversation got under my skin." The room went still. Ben leaned forward, his voice low. "I'm sorry, Joy, truly. No one should have to carry that kind of pain." She nodded slowly. "Yeah, well, we all carry something. I guess that's why people see it differently. For some of us, it's justice. For others, it's survival." Ben met her gaze, his tone soft. "Maybe it's both. Maybe real justice is learning how to heal without destroying ourselves in the process." The audience began to applaud, first a few people, then the entire studio. Joy managed a small smile and reached out, resting her hand briefly over Ben's. He returned the gesture with quiet respect. Whoopi grinned faintly. "Now that's the view I like to see. Two people disagreeing without tearing each other apart." Laughter rippled through the audience. As the show wrapped, the camera pulled back, capturing Joy and Ben still talking quietly, off mic, their faces calm now. By that evening, clips of the exchange were everywhere. Hashtags like #Stiller versus Behar and #Justice and Mercy trended on Twitter. Some called Ben a moral hero. Others said Joy was the only one brave enough to say what many were thinking. But one headline captured the essence of it all. When Hollywood's heart met daytime TV's fire, and both walked away changed. If you enjoyed this powerful moment, make sure to subscribe for more dramatic celebrity showdowns, unforgettable debates, and the stories behind the clashes that have everyone talking.